All right, guys, welcome to the stream. Today we're looking at SoundToys Super Plate. This is a plugin they've been working on for a really long time. Very, very cool. I played around with it on my Poly D last night and had a lot of fun with it. So that's the main thing we're going to focus on today. I also want to give a shout out to a very good video that I saw this week. So this is Looping with Moth, the ultimate live looping setup, Reaper plus Super 8. So she was covering the update to Super 8 in a recent Reaper update, which allows for 16 pads, I think it is, or 16 I/O. I'm not a big Super 8 user, but I respect it. There's a lot of people that are using it, and it's a great alternative to using the hardware pedals for live looping. She does a great job of explaining it, showing all the new features, and how to use it with some musical talent. Check that out. Give it a like if you do. Give her a subscribe if you like her music. Chris, Super 8 is a live looping plugin that's included with Reaper, which allows you to remote control a set of loopers. You record a phrase into it, loop it, overdub on top of that, and there's a lot of options for like what channels it goes to, whether it plays forward or then backwards, stereo linking. To get the most out of it, you really need to have some sort of pedal controller, or maybe buttons on a keyboard would work, but you can't really use it with a mouse. It's not really possible. So I think for a lot of people, maybe they don't use it or they don't notice it, but it's one of the stock plugins. Okay, so I've got a mix here, and I had a question this week about a CSI function that I hadn't explored in the previous videos. So currently, this mix has 45 tracks, and some of them are top-level tracks, some of them are inside of folders. So if I press the global view, then EQ button, this now shows only the folders that are in the project. And so like the top level kind of tracks, or really it's any tracks or folders. Things that aren't in folders won't show here, but parent tracks are here. And I think actually in this project, that is all the tracks. There's no vocals in this. I don't think I have any reverbs that are not in a track, but let me just check here. If I make a new track, no, that doesn't show there. Okay, so only folders. If I press select, now I'm seeing all of the guitar tracks inside of the guitar folder. I can see here it says parent, so that this I know is the folder track, and I can adjust just the guitar tracks here. I can go, if I click on the select button again, it goes back up to folder view, and I can jump to the keys track, and there is all of the tracks inside of the keys folder. If I want to go back to seeing all, I press the track view button again, and now it's jumped back to whatever tracks I had in view. So yeah, just a quick little thing I wanted to mention about CSI, because that was a great feature that was in the Driven by Moth extension. It was a little bit different. Double tap select on a folder track, and no, hold select on a folder track, and it will expand the faders to just what's in the folder, and it's a double tap to get back. It was a little confusing. This is pretty slick. You just have to remember that global view plus EQ button to get there. But if this is a function you use all the time, you could always set that up so that's more convenient. You have that on any of the F keys or keyboard shortcut or whatever, really. I like it a lot. Can you move a Reaper configuration file from Mac to PC and from PC to Mac? Yeah, I saw you were asking that on the Facebook group. I've done it both ways. There are certain things that come over automatically. Most of your keyboard shortcuts will be fine. Things like plugin folders are going to be different, obviously, with the different operating systems. And there isn't really a way to standardize that, as far as I know. Really, anything that has a specific path So your peak files folder, your auto backups folder, those will need to be set manually once you get onto that new system. Your VST folders, your custom folders, when you open up the add effects thing, all of these custom folders, these will all come over with your configuration, but the plugins themselves may not be there. So that'll be a little different. Media Explorer databases. I actually have a video about fixing that when you go from one system to another. Basically a way to batch convert. Let me just check that. Database. Yeah, how to fix Reaper databases. So Media Explorer databases are these like collections of sound effects where they could be anywhere on your hard drive, and this is just linking them all into one sort of category. These won't automatically work unless you batch fix them here, and I showed you how with using Sublime Text, but anything that can batch rename files and like find and replace. So here, replace 204,000 occurrences in 9 files. That's the sort of thing you can do. You can kind of do that same sort of thing with your Reaper config, whether you're going from Mac to PC or PC to Mac. Anything in Reaper.ini. Let's open this up in Sublime Text. Anything here that has a specific folder path. Let's try to find some. So like here, users, Epic Sounds. So this is showing something that is from a computer 2 computers ago. I just don't use this function, but this sort of thing where it's a specific path, you can either clear that to make it go back to default or batch rename it to the operating system path for your Reaper install or wherever that file would be. Not everything comes over automatically. I think this path is correct, but if I switch computers, this would have to be a different location to my metronome samples. It works, except for the dozens of things that don't work. I think I did do a video quite a while ago. I think it was like what to expect. Yeah, what to expect moving Reaper settings and preferences. I don't use the configuration export or import functions. I find it too slow. I just take everything in the Reaper folder and drop it onto that other computer. And some stuff works and some stuff doesn't, but this video was about going from a desktop Mac to a laptop Mac. And certain things I kept and certain things I just deleted. So yeah, hopefully that answers your questions. Going back to the Super 8 thing, I have a couple blog posts, videos about this. So I did, Super 8 got updated, and Tycho was one of the people really pushing the development of it at that time. So I had a conversation with Tycho about that. And then I took those things that he taught me and did a more, maybe less interviewee sort of thing. And I did my own kind of trial and error setting it up for my own system here. But I'm not a looping artist. There's one thing to be able to play the guitar and another thing to be able to play the guitar with precise timing to create perfect loops. And then also being able to do that on camera while thinking of all these, technical details about it. Regardless, I think the videos are going to be helpful if you're interested in looping. And again, there's this one for the most up-to-date information about this. So this will go up on the website as well. All right, Super Plate is now what we're talking about. Super Plate is the new plate reverb plugin from SoundToys. It's been quite a while since their last plugin, 5 or 7 years, I think. Little Plate was released, God, I don't even know what year that came out, but a really long time ago. And it is a great reverb. It was originally free, then it was discounted, and most of their little plugins are pretty cheap. and they get you discounts towards upgrading to the full bundle and upgrades when the full version of that plugin comes out. But it was such a long gap between Little Plate and Super Plate coming out, it seemed like Super Plate was never going to come out. But it did, and it's actually great. So they have 5 classic reverb, plate reverbs that go way beyond the original capabilities of those devices. If you don't know, plate reverb is a transducer vibrating a sheet of metal, and then there's pickups that capture those vibrations again. Yeah, it's an electromechanical device. You need to actually blast sound onto this metal and then capture it, amplify that, bring it back into your DAW. It's a big, clunky, heavy thing that has like foam dampers and stuff, and you got to crank things to adjust the reverb times. This is so much more convenient, more flexible, and it can go way beyond the original reverb times. So a regular plate reverb might only go to 3-second decay time at the maximum, and you got to crank these things to bring it down to like half a second. Now it's just on a knob, and you can go up to infinite decay times. So it'll just sustain whatever you put into for a long time. There's also an option for analog circuitry. There's a clean mode, which is kind of the digital version, tube and solid state modes from different EMT reverb devices. They separated the reverb section from the amplifier section, and I guess these are their favorite amplifiers. And you've never had this opportunity to try an EMT plate reverb with a different amplifier before. So super, super cool. And there's an example of what a EMT, no, that's an Audicon plate reverb. Stocktronics, E-Plate 3, Classic 140, that's an EMT 140. With one of the doors off. And there's a smaller gold, they use a thin sheet of 24 karat gold to create its distinctive, darker, and tighter sound. So why are we talking about this? First of all, because it's really good. Second, because it's at a great price. So if you have Little Plate, if you got Little Plate for free years ago, or you got it on sale or something, you can get this for $39. If you have the entire SoundToys bundle, which I do, only a $29 upgrade price, which fantastic. Instant buy, no regrets. But if you're just getting into this, you don't have any SoundToys plugins, it's $79 intro price right now. If you're interested in this plugin, you want to buy this and support the Reaper blog, I have a link in the description of the video and in the chat right now, reaper.blog/pluginboutique. There will be an affiliate link that pays me. Just a small amount, but I'd really appreciate it. Electric Owl Work says, we recently updated to SoundToys 5.4. Super Plate is quite nice and already used it on a client mix project that came in this week. Lots of sonic options and control. Hey, Whoa says, that's cool. Didn't know SoundToys still made plugins. Haven't used them much since going to the Arturia UAD stuff, but this looks great. Yeah, it's been a really long time. I kind of had the same feeling, but they eventually put out products and they're always super well thought out, easy to use, but then there's so many features kind of under the hood, so many uses for them. We've got Super Plate on the project, on this track. The UI is not resizable, but I can zoom in. So we've got a selector for the different modes. You can also click on the name. There's 5 different plate reverbs. There's the little button here for clean, solid state, and tube amplification. There's the decay knob, pre-delay, modulation, basic high and low pass filters, input drive, output gain, a mix control, and then there's also this tweak button, which you might not notice at first, but it gives you a full EQ, 4-band EQ, so you can make one frequency really resonant, or knock something out. There is a modulation control, kind of the modulation speed control. This is the depth. This is the speed. Auto decay is sort of like ducking, except that instead of just turning down the signal, it's reducing the decay time based on the threshold, which is really cool. Stereo width, I think this is output stereo width. The Little Plate plugin, I read that Little Plate would sum the input to mono first, but then it's stereo output. I haven't actually checked if the stereo is on the input or on the output, but it's probably on the output if I had to guess. The Little Plate is the EMT the classic 140. Basically the same functions, except the input is summed to mono on that one, and just very limited controls. Mod, on, off, no actual controls for how fast, how much. But in general, it's been great. It's surprisingly versatile. Let's hear it. I'm going to go to a preset that I found last night that I really liked, Church of Bob. I'm just going to set the mix control. If you right click on any of the controls, it'll show you the value there. You can toggle between the name and the value. So I'm just going to put this at like 97.5%. Bypass, this is what it sounds like. Sawtooth on the Poly D. Now put the plugin on. So that preset's called Church of Bob. And I like that one. I'm also going to go to Cosmic Pad, another example. Pretty fun. Definitely Blade Runner vibes. Yep. What's the term for that? Skeuomorphism? Is it? I was trying to tweak the plugin in the OBS preview, not on the screen in front of me. I am totally out of it today. Is it skeuomorphism? Kind of, but in a way it's not, because it's also the this is not what the original looks like a pool game that looks like a pool table, or a notebook app that looks like a notebook. This is sort of just like a 3D realistic kind of UI. I don't have any complaints about the UI. Obviously the wood paneling makes no difference. Also, it kind of ties things in together and it looks nice. So no, I can't really complain about that. There's also a rack, effects rack. I hardly ever use this one, but this is like, in a way, this is more skeuomorphic than the individual plugins because it's a rack of hardware. But effects rack is just kind of a way to chain all the SoundToys plugins together, and then also create a feedback loop within that, which is pretty fun. I don't use it too often, but it's good stuff. What do you like putting reverb plates on? Vocals, snare? I'm not too picky. Like I will just like kind of pick a reverb at random almost, and it's like either it works or it doesn't. Plates definitely have a kind of a tinge of this metallic sound that we either like or we don't. Either works or it doesn't for the thing. If I go to no filter, or put the filter at about half, and is that loud enough? You can kind of hear this like hum. I'm gonna adjust the filter so that it's not. Let's just go straight. Yeah, straight emulation of the thing. So they've all got this like metallic quality, which doesn't always work. Feels like the modulation's quite subtle. Too subtle. And then the different modes are... There's sort of like a darkening with the tube. And sort of a little, slightly more aggressive tone in the solid state. So I like plate reverbs in general. If that metallic sound works for it, if you're going for sort of spacey sounds, I think it works really well. It's a classic sound, so it tends to work because there's so many examples of it working in music. But on its own, it doesn't sound like a real space. It's a fake space, but because of all this evidence that it works in a mix, it does work in a mix. When do I use room reverbs? Whenever I want it to sound like it's in a real room, basically. I don't go for a plate when I want it to sound like it's in a room, but I do want it to have a space. So the width control, that is the output. I think it's already mono coming in. I'll turn on the chorus. Yeah, so it's stereo width of the output. Good reverb in general. I mean, You need them all. You need multiple plate reverbs. I think we did a stream where we compared the Arturia plate. What was that called? Plate 140. We looked at this one, and this is a good, at the time it was free. I don't think it's free anymore. This is a fine reverb. It's got a tube amplifier. It's got 3 different modes, which are, I don't know if they're real, if there's 3 different real plates, but it's all supposed to be the EMT 140. And annoyingly, the decay time, you got to click on these little buttons. That's a downgrade. That's like the real thing. It's not musical. It's not fun to use. It's kind of annoying. You can't type in the exact amount. You can't instantly go to a certain amount. Can you even automate that? I guess you could automate that. But it's not nice to use compared to Super Plate, where it's just this knob, and it goes far beyond the real thing, which is nice. I mean, this one is not bad by any means. It's a good plate reverb. I've also got Valhalla plate. And this is totally opposite design style, very flat, even more different modes. But these are all algorithms of plates. And I suppose Super Plate is also algorithms. Maybe circuit modeling. I don't know exactly the words for that. But yeah, these are different types of metals, and decay time goes up to 30 seconds, which is plenty. Yeah, I mean, it's also great. It's not often a go-to for me. It's just like occasionally I'll use it because I realize I haven't used it in a while, that sort of thing. But yeah, I've had that one for quite a while. Convolution reverbs will have plate emulations, but they're less flexible. You can't infinitely or smoothly change the decay time. Let's get some drums, I guess. Let's do XO, I suppose. Sure. Let's see if there is actually like there's some drums presets here. Let's slow down that tempo. That's a bit fast. 96. That there is kind of cool, where I might use something like a spring reverb to add additional sort of metallic high frequency stuff. So there's a big boost on that. It just instantly brings out a different character to the drums. Okay. So here's the ducking function, or auto-decay. I turn it off. So when it's loud, it decreases the decay time down to 2 and automatically returns it back up to the 16. And let's bring that send volume all the way up. So if you want a long reverb, but it gets in the way, it gets all cluttered, even if we've got all the lows in there, we can use this threshold as sort of just a long reverb in between the notes. Pretty cool. And it's different than ducking because it's actually reducing the decay time. There's a couple more drum presets here. I like that one. Okay, and I'll put another super plate directly on the synth. And I don't know. Super Galactic is the preset. Maybe a little too long. Let's go with like I think there was a synth lead. It works well. I like the plugin. They're getting a lot of free advertising today. But yeah, I think it's totally worth getting for the $29, $39, even $79. I think it's excellent reverb plugin. Let's do a quick play of Interlaced from DecentSampler. This is a collaboration from Venus Theory and David Hilowitz. This is a sample-based instrument that has analog, I guess, and digital synth voices recorded to VHS and then sampled, made into a instrument. A lot of the character of a synth is how the modulation works, how the filter works, the built-in effects, the quirks of the envelope generator, all these things. But when you just take an oscillator, often it's not very interesting. So you can't have any movement when you're building a sample library from synth sounds. Sometimes things sound pretty boring, but then you have to kind of recreate all those things. So all the effects, envelope generator, you have to rebuild that stuff. But then you can kind of do a lot more with it. So let's add some slow attack to this. Okay, and now let's also adjust the filter. It'll blend in the room reverb. Doing something like this, building out a sample-based instrument from real analog synths, allows you to go beyond the original capabilities of those synths. So something like the Mavis has a single voice. Like it's not velocity sensitive for one. It's sort of, even though it's semi-modular, there's still certain things you can't patch in. Even just having like polyphonic, that's not possible with that synth. But there is a Moog Mavis in here. I'm not sure which presets use the Mavis, but instantly, now that synth covers the full keyboard. These are very vibey. I like them. I like them a lot. Yeah, we talked about this synth. I gave a shout out to the 2 videos at the launch of this. It's only $15, so I think it's, if you're kind of interested in them, you like Venus Theory's content, you like DecentSample's David stuff, then it's such a cheap plugin. But Jason sent Venus Theory an email, and then this showed up in my inbox, so I figure it's worth checking out as well. Should we also get a little bit of Super Plate on there? Default preset at 24%. A few minutes ago, I made the statement, you can't have any movement in a sample of a synth that turned it into a playable sampler. Does anyone not know the reason why? If I had a complaint about this, I don't like the effects that come with it. The chorus is fine. I like having more controls than that, but the delay bothers me. There's no way to like sync it to the tempo or show the the millisecond value of it. It's just between 0.2 and 1.40. So yeah. So for me, with my engineer brain, I want to like lock everything into the tempo and things like that, or to know exactly what the millisecond value is. Maybe this is showing 390 milliseconds here, but I don't know for sure. And you can't lock it to the tempo of the song. So I don't really enjoy that, but it does add something to the sound in a nice way most of the time in the presets. As far as UIs go for DecentSampler stuff that I've seen, I think this is one of the better ones. I didn't run into any bugs with like notes that go out of tune or things that are modulated and they speed up as you go up the keyboard, things like that. I find that I keep getting like a crunchy distortion in this. I don't know if anyone else is hearing that. Even with the drive all the way down. I think the real star of this is this tuning LFO because it's just instant vibes, right? Like this sounds good. I just add a little bit of tuning depth. And it's like nostalgia. Yeah, there seems to be a crunch in some of the things, but it's not hitting zero anywhere that I'm seeing. Lots of glide time. It's fun. The sepia one is sepia. Even though this is kind of like a thin and dark sound, it reedy. I don't know. It's one of my favorite sounds in this. This one reminds me of a Tom Sachs or Van Neistat soundtrack. And I'm pretty sure Van Neistat lives in Topanga Canyon, so... I just realized there's no LFO other than a tuning LFO. Somehow I didn't even notice it. I think it's very fun to play even without that. We can always use Reaper to create an LFO. Let's do a parameter modulation to an LFO. Actually, let's do like a saw ramp. No, positive. Tempo sync it. 0.5. Yeah, that's kind of fun. Yeah, I think I want triangle on 4 quarter notes. It's fun stuff. For a specific sound, it's cool. I think there's a bunch of good sounds in here. You guys don't seem to be too interested in that one. I still want to get a VHS player, recorder. I haven't seen one yet, locally. I don't want to spend like $50 on shipping. I'm just going to do a quick browse of the news. Music tech news here. Super Booth was last week, I think, in Berlin. So there's a lot of like synth announcements, lots of people putting up videos about that. It's a lot of modular synth stuff that I don't really care that much about. It's not that I don't care about it, it's that I refuse to get involved with that stuff. I just can't. SampleSun has a new plugin called Overheat, which is a saturation plugin. It works on PC, Windows 7 and above, works on Intel Mac and Apple Silicon. VST3 audio units are available, free download. Does require an email to download. Nice looking interface. See anything here that really bothers me about the interface? Yeah, I'll give that a link. I'm not going to check it out today. Delay pedals from Boss. Piano Tech for iOS. Roland Launch S1 Tweak Synth. Latest addition to Roland's family of compact instruments offers the sounds of their classic SH-101 and includes a range of features that aim to inspire dynamic performances. Neat. Oh yeah, the field recorder. A lot of people hated this thing. There it is. I think it looks awesome. I don't care what it costs. I don't care if it's just trendy or whatever. I think it's neat. I would not refuse one if someone was offering. After how pissed off I am at Zoom for covering their thing in rubber that melts in 3 years, I would much rather have some aluminum or magnesium thing, something that's actually got some innovation behind it, some thought to the design. It looks neat. Is it a toy? I don't know. It's a little less than $2,000. Has 3 inputs or outputs, right? No, 1 output, 3 inputs. Interesting. USB-C, a quick record memo button. It's got, what's the other thing? The top thing is like a wheel that you can turn, I believe. I don't know. I think it looks great. I don't care if it's overpriced. I would get one. I'm going to watch this video later. $14.99 USD. I guess it's expensive for a handheld device. Also, like, look at the price of high-end field recorders. This is more. This is also stereo. It's not handheld. I feel like this is what they're competing against with the TP7. This is the modern version of this. And maybe it's not as good. But if you're looking for like a handheld portable recorder that's made out of metal, there's not really any options. Their desk was, I don't know. It is just a desk. I don't know. We're yet to see like the full system. They're supposed to have a bunch of like add-ons and stuff. I think currently they're exploring some other options here. I like their stuff, but also I've never owned any of their stuff. Tape holder? Yeah, okay. I don't know. I would need to see this in person and see if it's actually sturdy. But like, I think the quality of the aluminum is like 1,000 times higher quality than what when you're buying furniture on Amazon. Because my kids have a desk that's kind of like this, with like a fake wood top and crossbar in the back, but not on the sides. And it's very flimsy. Like, the whole thing shakes around if you're erasing. It bangs on the wall, and it's a terrible experience. So if their desk doesn't do any of that, it's not worth that much money, probably. Well, hopefully it's free shipping. Can you show how to do ducking in Reaper like you showed on SoundToys plugin? Yeah, I could do that. It depends on what exactly you want to do. You could technically do ducking of any parameter with a parameter modulation. Can you clarify, like, do you mean sidechain compression or ducking of parameters? Let's take Little Plate, which does not have ducking. And we'll set it to like 8. Ducking the reverb. Okay, well, a couple different ways. Let's try with parameter modulation. So I last touched the parameter, the decay parameter, and then going to parameter modulation MIDI link. And I want to use a audio control signal. And just adjust this back up to the starting point of like here. So this controls kind of the starting point of that parameter. And then all of these controls change how far it's going to move. Sure, we'll just add this. Obviously, that's way too much. So I'm going to set the audio track channels to 1 and 2. And then we were going to move this in a negative direction. So the parameter will go to the left. And then there's a few things we can adjust here. There's the minimum volume, maximum volume, the strength, and then there's also the shaping. Is there an order of operations for this? I don't think there is, really. You kind of just have to mess around. I always just mess around with it. So minimum volume is kind of like the threshold of where it starts. But sometimes you can leave that at default and just adjust the shaping. I think I'm going to adjust the max a little bit. I think this is a pretty neat effect, actually. So that's adjusting the decay time of the reverb based on the incoming sound. So I'm going to turn that off. Instead, we'll just do this the more traditional way, which is with a compressor. So I'm going to get a compressor. So this is going to be after the instrument. But we need to actually get around the reverb, because the reverb signal itself is not going to trigger the compression very well. We want the original sound to trigger the compression. I think I actually need like something like an EQ ahead of this so that I can copy. Yeah, I think this is how you have to do it. You have to have something that actually copies the output to an additional set of tracks. So now if recomp is set to auxiliary input, it's automatically set up for channels 3 and 4 to be auxiliary input. And if I listen to preview filter, I'm hearing no reverb on that. I've made a split in the signal, so I'm going around the little plate plugin by assigning channels 3 and 4. And then 3 and 4 is picked up again by the detector input of recomp. So now I just need to set a ratio, so somewhere above, probably 2 to 1. So it's kind of a different effect. It's not as nice as the automatic ducking of, or changing the decay time, because we're not changing the decay time. We're just sort of turning things down when they're loud. We could still make this work, so less reverb. We can make it so that only the kick makes it duck. Or we could take another sound, like let's take this wood block, super short click sound. Let's put this on quarter notes. Okay, and this will go into recomp as its source. So I'm going to drag from the routing button onto the plugin. You can see that the cursor changed to a cable icon. Let's put this pre-fader. Unity is going to channels from 1 and 2, which is what we hear, to 3 and 4, which is the sidechain input. And then we'll just come into the routing button here for this track so we don't hear this click. So we're turning off master send. So this is sometimes referred to as a ghost sidechain because it's a signal that we're not listening to. It's not following the dynamics of the kick drum, for example. It's its own pattern. And to prove that, we could just take like the 16th note and we'll just, oops, wrong button. Let's dupe that. So there's a bit of a different pattern here. And one downside of this and why this is not sounding so great is that the reverb and the original signal are being turned down at the same time. Again, this is a good reason why you want to put your reverbs and things on their own tracks. So little plate is now on its own track. Recomp is going to be moved there. And I'll just change my routing so that the loop, so this is my trigger. This loop now goes to the recomp. Let's make it pre-fader. So reverb at 100% wet on a separate track. And this also needs a send. It doesn't need to be a channel 3/4 send. What if you duck the dry wet control? Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, let's set that up. So I'll turn off the compressor, and the dry wet we will trigger from audio input. Let's try it on channels 1 and 2. So it's getting the sound of the drums. And where's it going to start? It's going to start at negative and go positive. We can also flip this so it goes negative. I think, again, that's kind of a different effect. I do like that more than the compressor in this case. This way seems like it's easy to make it kind of reversed, or maybe I just didn't think of it earlier. You can make it turn up when the input signal is loud, or we can flip it, go this way, and then we can drop it when the signal is loud. And you can't really do that with a compressor. You can't do an inverted ducking. Pretty neat. I'm glad you asked that question. That's a good question. One final way. So again, we've got little plate here with too much reverb. Duck is a envelope-based kind of transient controller, or something like that. We're controlling the volume based on its own signal or an incoming signal or on the tempo. So this is currently set to trigger mode. We're going to set this to, we can set this to sidechain. So now we see it moving based on the pattern that's coming in. We can scale this effect back. And with the amount control or this, we could also change the timing of this. Or we could take off the sidechain input and just set it to repeat. And this is going to follow the speed of the project. And now I want an LFO on this, and I don't know if I can LFO that. Yeah, shaper boxes just like Duck. Duck can also do a crossover, so you can let through the lows or let through the highs still. You could also experiment with having Duck before the plate. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with this. You have this on half note. I think if you do this, it will let through the snare, but not the kick. Or we can set this to a 1-bar pattern and then bring this over here and then bring in another point. So you can kind of just reverb the snare. So again, this is having duck before little plate. Let's put it after again. So the entire drum loop is going into little plate, but we're only letting through this envelope. Turn off the crossover. It's pretty cool. It's all fun stuff. Fast Effects Finder, how does that work? Yeah, okay, so Fast Effects Finder, it's a script you'll find in Repack. So Fast Effects Finder is from the user none0ne. You invoke that action after you assign it to an action. So I've got it as a global action on the tilde key. So I press this, and then this is, it just has like all of your favorites and everything, all of your VST plugins, everything, this little list here. I mean, it's similar to right-clicking on this, but this is more curated and it has a search bar. Okay, so this I will put instead of the plate, and we'll also set this to no dry. All right, so what if we put duck after? Also pretty fun. So Fast Effects Finder, yeah. You search, and I think your recent searches come up here. This is sorted in some way. I don't remember. It's definitely not something I searched for recently, outer space. I don't know why that's come up, but, or maybe it's the things that I search for the most often. So once you have this, if you have it item selected, I do, let's say, wait 2A, item, no, it goes to the track. It always goes to the track. I have a different action. I press this button and then press this. This goes to the last touched thing, so that'll go to the item or the track. And that action, same key, but I just don't hold shift. Show effects chain for item or track depending on mouse context. And that works pretty well. I think there was I don't think I ever reported the bug I had with it. If you select in the mixer, it doesn't always work. Both of those actions I use quite a lot now. It's my favorite script for randomizing params. I actually don't do that very often. There is a script. I interviewed the developer. Variator is worth looking into. It will do volume, pan, pitch, time stretch, rate, position, content, length, fades, fade shape. The actual file can be randomized. And one of these. If I select these, make a few of them, and then let's do randomize parameters like that and mutate. It'll do some weird stuff. So it gives you variations really quick. That's not the only one out there. NVK has, is it Create? Create, I did a video with him about this. And it's a similar thing to Variator. It's a premium script for sound designers. This one had a very funny comment on it. I don't know if the guy deleted his comment. Yeah, there's this one. Yeah. Sound designers don't put in any effort. They're just automating the process, all this stuff. Nick is a sound designer on the Star Wars games. So he's definitely putting in lots of effort and top quality work. He's not allowed to say that he's working on which games, but yeah, he's sound designer for you know, that big Star Wars game that that came out right before this thing came out, and the new version is out now. Anyways, I always think it's funny. People don't know what goes on with the sound design stuff. Thank you so much for joining the live stream today. It's been fun, and it's a little bit of a shorter one, but only slightly, which ends up saving me time in the editing. But yeah, I appreciate you being here. We will do this again next week, same time. Have a great day, guys. Yeah, see you next week.